I've said it before and I'll say it again. Reading the comments in the comment section is like getting a back massage periodically interrupted with a kick to the groin. I've also said that a thumbnail without a dog is not a good thumbnail. Viva Frei, Montreal litigator turned YouTuber. I do vlogs. And yesterday I did a video breaking down and explaining Tulsi Gabbard's lawsuit against Google Inc. Now, because I love knowing what people say, but I am also a glutton for punishment, I read through a lot of the comments. And a lot of the comments I read were both insightful, intriguing, some of them were a little hurtful. And while a great many of them deserve responses, I only have so much time in the day, but I'm going to take this video to respond to some of the comments in that comment section of that video. If you haven't seen that video, go watch it now. It's about 20 minutes long and I have time, I'll wait. Alright, that should have been enough time for you to watch the video. Now let's answer some comments. By having the committee as the plaintiff, she also gets to use campaign contributions to fund the suit. Very good point. There was a part in the video where I was discussing the fact that the plaintiff was actually Tulsi Now Inc. and not Tulsi Gabbard personally, and I was hypothesizing as to why that might have been. It's actually a very good point. To the extent that Google is, in fact, or arguably suppressing the voice of the campaign by suspending the campaign's Google Ads accounts, it makes sense that the campaign is the plaintiff to the lawsuit, and it also makes sense that the campaign pays for the lawsuits via campaign funds. This is not a criticism, it's not an accusation, it's not any sort of blameworthy conduct, and if the people don't like the way the campaign is spending their campaign finances, they won't donate to the campaign again. But it's a very good point and not one that I brought up myself in the video. Steven Crowder had a full episode on Google on Tulsi Gabbard. Steven Crowder recently alleged that YouTube has been hiding Ms. Gabbard's videos from their search results within the United States. Could that be proof that Google has been acting in bad faith toward her? Are you familiar with these allegations? Did you not see Steven Crowder's recent story about Tulsi Gabbard's YouTube search results being tampered with in the United States? Alright, there were in fact a lot of comments asking if I had seen Steven Crowder's video, which purported to offer evidence that Tulsi Gabbard's results were being suppressed in the United States, whereas they were not in countries like Spain and Germany. I watched the video, it's very interesting. Incidentally, it's something that I've been noticing for a while, and I do think YouTube and Google have some questions to answer. And I do think it can lend some credence to Tulsi Gabbard's accusations. The only problem, it's not alleged anywhere in the proceedings. Now, admittedly, this particular video by Steven Crowder, which purports to offer evidence that Tulsi Gabbard's search results are being manipulated by Google, came out after the lawsuit was filed, so it makes sense that there were no allegations to that effect in the proceedings, given that that video had not yet been created. But this does highlight a very important thing that I've been noticing in the comment section. A lot of people saying, oh, there's X, Y, and Z, which further evidences Tulsi Gabbard's claims and lawsuit against Google. If it's not alleged in the proceedings, evidence cannot be made of it in the context of a trial. It is critical that everybody understands this when analyzing any lawsuit. If something is not alleged in the proceedings, evidence cannot be made of that come trial time. It's a principle that exists pretty much in every legal system. There is no trial by ambush. You can't show up to trial with witnesses you haven't called. You can't show up to trial to make evidence of things that have not been alleged in the proceedings, and it's just a question of fairness. Allegations are included in the proceedings not only so that plaintiff can avail themselves to those allegations, but also so that the defendant can test those allegations, so that the defendant can ask questions on those allegations, so that the defendant can cross-examine on those allegations, so that the defendant can offer evidence to counter those allegations. If there are no additional allegations in the lawsuit further evidencing other manners in which Google has messed with Tulsi Gabbard's campaign, Tulsi Gabbard cannot make evidence of that come trial time. Barring extraordinary circumstances such as discovery of new evidence, a party is held to what they've alleged in their proceedings. And even in the extraordinary circumstances where there is, say, discovery of new material evidence, what you have to do then is amend the proceedings, include those allegations and the evidence you intend to adduce at trial, and every party to the suit could get to re-examine if so warranted, or at the very least respond to those new allegations. So even if one gets to amend and add additional allegations that were not included in the original lawsuit, the other parties, as a matter of procedural equity, are going to get to respond to those new allegations. But you can't show up to trial and say, and here are a slew of other examples in which Google messed with Tulsi Gabbard's campaign, unless those have been alleged in the proceedings so that every party can take cognizance of them and respond to them as necessary. Why do the line numbers not align with the actual lines in the lawsuit? Alright, I was asking myself that same question as well, even though it's not the most important question in the world. I don't know, but if I were referring to that document, it would make it very difficult for me to refer to a line number. As it is, it makes it very difficult for me to even look at it. Oh, come on. Google's reason for the suspension, waffling on reasons for the suspension, and restoring the account after reviews sounds extraordinarily like the YouTube demonetization treatment of some lawyer we all love. One of these things is just like the other. Alright, and I'm going to post the screenshot of my response so that you can read it now. as I continue to talk about the subject. And while I had these thoughts in the back of my head while making this video, and I knew some people would comment on it, I knew other people might even accuse me of being a hypocrite in that I seem to be defending Google in their treatment towards Tulsi Gabbard, whereas I complain about it all the time as relates to me. I didn't want to make this video about me, and there are material differences between the situation that I have been complaining about for months and the situation described in Tulsi Gabbard's legal proceedings. Tulsi Gabbard's lawsuit as alleged, and that's the critical distinction here. As alleged does not include any of the evidence found by Steven Crowder. It doesn't include any of the additional stuff found by other internet sleuths as to Google's unlawful conduct towards Tulsi Gabbard. As alleged, Tulsi Gabbard's lawsuit focuses on one event sometime around June 28th or June 29th that was resolved quickly as relates to her Google Ads account only. And that is precisely the basis of my critique of the lawsuit. It is weak on the facts. When someone is arguing malicious, abusive, capricious conduct, typically it has to rely on more than one event. If the one example of abusive conduct is egregious and over the top enough, sure, it can suffice for the basis of a lawsuit. But when you're trying to prove that conduct is abusive, malicious, or capricious, it kind of has to be based on more than one discrete event. Compared to what I have been experiencing with YouTube over the last 5 months, and which is specifically why I have been documenting it so thoroughly over the last 5 months. If I were to have just jumped right into it after my first example of demonetization and said that YouTube's conduct towards me as a creator was abusive, malicious, capricious, systematic, but all that I have is one video that was demonetized and then subsequently remonetized,
that would be a weak lawsuit also.
Showing prolonged and repeated conduct definitely supports the idea of malicious, arbitrary, capricious conduct more than one standalone event, especially given the nature of that one event that is being alleged. Recall that Tulsi Gabbard is alleging that her Google Ads account was suspended briefly June 28th or June 29th at a bad time, no doubt, but it was resolved quickly, although Tulsi Gabbard never really bought the excuses being offered by Google. That's the allegation. The allegation is also to the effect that it was a relatively newly created account. It's not as though that ad account had existed for several years without any problem. And a few other people in the comment section had hypothesized that this is sort of like the fraud alert with a credit card. If you get a brand new credit card that you've barely had for 3 weeks and all of a sudden the credit card company starts seeing massive expenses on one given day, sure as sugar they're going to suspend your account and make sure that those expenses are legitimate. If you've had a credit card for 5 years and you've never spent more than $2,000 in a month, and 1 month you spend $15,000 in a day, sure as sugar the credit card company is going to suspend your account and make sure that there's no fraud going on. That being said, if you've had a credit card and the credit card company has frozen your card for no good reason 15 different times, you might then have an argument that the credit card company is doing something wrong to you. And I may be repeating myself, but there is a reason why I have been documenting so thoroughly all of the chicanery that I have been experiencing at the hands of YouTube. It's not just demonetizing one video. It's not just demonetizing. It's not just deleting one comment. It's not just deleting comments as a problem. It's not just a question of unsubscribing one subscriber here and there. It's not even just a question of unsubscribing a number of subscribers on repeated occasions. It's all of these things on multiple occasions over an extended period of time with absolutely no satisfactory or coherent answer from YouTube. I've got to tell you, if I were to draft a proceeding on my own experience, it would be 10 times stronger on the facts than Tulsi Gabbard's. And while I may in fact believe that there is actual chicanery going on within Google as relates to the presidential election, Tulsi Gabbard's lawsuit does not make sufficient allegations for me as a critical person to come to that conclusion based on the lawsuit as drafted. And it doesn't make me feel good to say it because I was expecting that lawsuit to be a home run, and instead it was a total airball.
And I've just mixed metaphors to the point where it makes me look like a moron.
The real purpose of the lawsuit is to gain open discovery into Google's obscure policies, not to win the suit. The information obtained will be used to formulate legislation in the House of Reprehensibles to regulate the operations of big tech firms. Now, this comment makes a good point, but it also ignores an important point. We've seen this in the Nicholas Sandmann lawsuit against the Washington Post. The Washington Post succeeded on their motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim, and I will never agree with that judgment, granting that motion to dismiss for the rest of my life. Never, full stop, period. Still angry about that one. But given what we've seen in other lawsuits, as drafted, Tulsi Gabbard's lawsuit might not actually survive a summary motion to dismiss. Consequently, because of how it's drafted, it might never even get to the discovery stage. It might get dismissed before a discovery stage. And this is something that people have to appreciate. It's not just because you file a lawsuit that you get to go to discovery. That lawsuit has to be sufficiently well drafted to survive a motion to dismiss. And having seen what I have now seen, I am not certain this lawsuit is sufficiently well drafted. And there it sounds like I'm defending Google, which brings us to our next comment. It finally happened. Viva Frei has turned into a political shill. Oh, so sad. It does not take much to push people over the boundaries that they tell themselves they will never cross. All right, and you'll notice that this is the only comment whose name and, what is that thing called? Avatar, I blacked out. And it's not to deprive the person of credit for their comment. I don't want anyone thinking I'm picking on this person, and I don't want people reacting to this person negatively. I'm gonna call it a legitimate comment, even even though I think it's an unfair comment. It is a critique, and when you open yourself up to the public by sharing your thoughts with them, you have to be able to deal with that critique. I do happen to think it's an unfair critique, and why? Because it's one that I can actually never prove false. It's one of those critiques where the power lies in the accusation itself. When all of a sudden you disagree with someone on a substantive point, it just becomes too reflexively easy to write them off as a shill. And reading the comment, I'm not even sure what the person means by a shill. A shill for whom? One of the ways I read it is that I'm shilling for Google as though they somehow paid me now to come to their defense, or I've somehow been compromised in my integrity and I am now coming to the defense of Google, even though I spent the last 5 months building up a video inventory of all the chicanery that YouTube has been
throttling on me.
So maybe I'm being accused of shilling outright, as in being paid to defend Google. Maybe I'm being accused of shilling for Google, but not in the sense that they're paying me, just in the sense that I'm sort of trying to kiss their butt to get into their good books so that YouTube stops messing with my channel on a going forward basis. How can I disprove that? And if I make another video criticizing YouTube, that very same accusation will shift from being a shill to having controlled opposition to make it look like I'm still fighting YouTube even though I'm shilling for Google. But then it occurred to me that maybe I'm being accused of shilling for Tulsi Gabbard in a video that is ostensibly critical of what she's done in her lawsuit against Google. Maybe I'm being accused of shilling for Tulsi Gabbard by bringing more spotlight to her in her campaign, which is to her benefit, which is somehow politically motivated. Anyhow, all that to say, it's an unfair accusation because I can never prove it wrong, but take my word for this, I shill for nobody.
And that has to go on my next shirt.
Alright, and that is the most recent edition of Reading the Comments. Another comment said I had to go a little easier on the end of the video, so be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a comment in the comment section below, share my channel with somebody you like it. There, I just went heavy again.
I went too hard.
Now you know your vlog. Peace out. Booyah!